Welcome to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten.
Hi, I'm Wendy. After I graduated with my master's in wellness management, I started my own company, T2 Coaching, Health, Fitness, and Sport.
And I'm Kirsten, an athlete, vegan, life coach, and girl mom, running a business focused on helping others create a life they love.
We are here to explore all things wellness to help you become the person you've always wanted to be.
So if that's why you're here, open your ears and your mind as we tackle the world of wellness together. Hey, everybody. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Kirsten. How are you?
I'm doing good. What are you up to today?
Well, I met my friend Ann this morning. We haven't met in a couple weeks, and I started riding this week. I mentioned on the podcast, I think, that my goal to not feel behind, which is what we talked about last week, was I was feeling behind on my bike. So I decided, we'll do something about it. So I decided to get my tri bike out, and I haven't been on my bike pretty much in 8 months. I did a little bit of riding for that January challenge, but I didn't complete it. I think I only rode like 3 times. So I don't really count that. And so what do? I'm 8 weeks out from my first race. It's time to ride on my tri bike. It's time to ride in general. So I got my tri bike ready and I've ridden 3 times. Today I rode with my friend Ann. My minimum is 5 miles. My maximum is 10 miles. And that's what I did. 10 miles. I've done 3 times 10 miles.
How'd your back feel? Because weren't you having problems last year with your back?
I noticed it a little bit more, like my left hip, my left glute, especially going uphill. Like I have a weakness in my left side, but I think that's not really a weakness. It's just a tightness that I have to work out. And so today she wanted to do 4 little hill repeats. And we don't meet at the mountain anymore because the mountain where we used to meet, Kennesaw Mountain, hasn't allowed cyclists because they've been doing some reconstruction renovation. And I believe the government is still shut down. So that project has been very delayed. So we met at a new location that has a little hill. And so she wanted to do it. And it was really hard. I couldn't power up the hill like I normally can. So at this point, I would have been riding Kennesaw Mountain every day, every week. I would have been riding once a week for the last at least 2 months. I would have been riding once a week, and I haven't been. So riding up a hill was quite challenging. My back feels okay. I think it's because I'm just starting that 5 to 10 mile range. I'm not going out and hammering a 40K.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's actually probably my wellness win too. Is I said I was going to get on the bike, and just by saying it and telling someone that I'm going to do it, it's like a new goal. It holds me accountable to myself to say it's out there. I posted it on my story and social media to see if there's anyone else who's feeling behind like I am when it comes to their training. And so here I am. That's what I'm up to. I'm also at home. I was going to go to Lifetime and try to jump on the call, but I'm like, you know what? I have another call at 3. So I'm like, I'm going to go there at 3 p.m. my time. I'm like, I'm going to spend the day at home and get some stuff done.
Yeah, spending time at home. That's what I want to do more of. My wellness win is, speaking of spending time at home, we moved into our new apartment I moved on Saturday. The first day that that my daughter Cora slept here was Sunday. And so for 3 nights in a row, she slept in her own room. And she's been sleeping in my room for the last 3 to 4 years. So that's huge. She really wants a loft bed, and I told her I wasn't going to get her a loft bed if she was sleeping in my room, because I'm not going to spend money getting her a bed if she's not going to sleep in it. And I told her she needed to sleep in her bed every day when we move in, and if she can do that, then I'll get her loft bed. And she has. And after the first night, I was kind of nervous. Well, I thought she would maybe like wake up in the middle of the night, come into my room. She didn't. And in the morning, I said, "How was it?" And she goes, "That was really fun." Sleeping in her own room, in her own bed. So that's a huge wellness win. I mean, part of me is like, oh, well, I miss her. Like, we hold hands every night. Joey, come here. They're working on I live in an apartment, and they do the landscape, like mow the lawn and stuff. And
yeah,
our new apartment, it's all new windows and new sounds and new sights. So my dogs have been barking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so my wellness win is an independent daughter who is sleeping in her own room, which is
Love
awesome.
it. And my husband built a loft bed for our granddaughter Stevie, who lives next door, and it's just beautiful, amazing. I as an adult want a loft bed. Like I
Right.
want one now. I've always wanted one.
So much, you have so much more space. It's like she wants like the
Yeah.
desk, everything underneath, and it'll have like drawers and shelves, and it'll definitely be more organized. So yeah, I'm looking,
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
since I'm and they're actually not that expensive. They're definitely not as nice as the one that Dawn built. I mean, these are just like cheapy IKEA things you just pop together. But
Yeah.
most of them are about like 200 to $500. But I was looking on Facebook Marketplace a few weeks ago, just getting an idea, and there's a lot of them that for
Nice.
75.
Good.
So, so that's what I'll do, and then I'll probably spend 8 months trying to put it together.
That sounds great.
So, well, we have been getting a lot of questions and from our athletes or just people that we either coach or know who know that we do the podcast. And Wendy and I haven't had our last several podcasts. We used to do a listener question at the end of each one, but we've had, a lot to chit chat about, or we've been short on time. And so we actually haven't even had any listener questions on the podcast the last few weeks. So we thought we would just compile them all and do another Ask Us Anything podcast. And so we each came up with 3 questions. Did you get 3?
I did.
Me too. All right. So, all different
You
areas.
start.
Mine are 3 different areas of life. So, do you want to start? Or
Yours
are
are
you
three different. Yeah, mine are all just training questions.
okay? Well, then I'll
But
start with
again, when we start talking about stuff, even though it's training,
it.
multi-sport coaching related, it kind of can apply to all aspects of life, maybe a little
Yeah,
bit.
I 100% agree. I feel like when we start talking about something that has to do with our athletes, like periodization, time management, skipping workouts, feeling behind, like everything pertains to every area of your life. Discipline,
Right.
all that, excuses, all the stuff. All right, so my first one is an athlete question, and she said, and I'm paraphrasing all the questions. Like they asked me long questions. I'm just taking the question out. So basically, she said, I keep cramping when I race, but I'm fine while training. So, and I actually talked to her a little bit about this, but thought this is pretty because this actually has happened to myself personally over the last few years. And when she trains, she has all the right calories, carbs, nutrition, electrolytes to get her through her training and never had any problems cramping. But every time she races, she cramps, and cramping meaning like muscle cramps. And since I actually have had this same experience the last few years, I've done a little bit of a deep dive into myself. And so I thought it would be a good thing to discuss if somebody came to me and I didn't know any background and they just said they were cramping a lot, I would first look at nutrition. I would look at
Mm-hmm.
hydration, electrolytes, carbs, what general nutrition, what you ate before, stuff like that. But I already know for this woman, I already knew all that was pretty pretty good, just like it is for me. And so, and I would love to get your take on this too, Wendy. But for me, and so this is what I talked to her about. This is why it happens to me. Because when I train, I'm training, I would say on a scale from 1 to 10, for the most part, like a 5 or 6 of effort, maybe even lower. And then when I race, I jump into that 8 to 10 out of 10 for effort. So I personally don't do enough threshold training. And so it doesn't matter how good my nutrition and my electrolytes and my carb count, and it doesn't matter how good that is, my body isn't adapted to those harder efforts for extended periods of time. And so when I go and race and I push myself a lot harder than I do in training, And I don't think you guys, you don't need to train. It's not good to train hard all the time, but you should at least do enough threshold workouts so that your body can sustain that effort of muscle use in competition. And I don't do that. And I know this person does not do that as well. So that's what I talked to her about when she came to me with this question. So, what would you say, Wendy?
Well, going on what you just said, yeah, if you're going to plan on racing at a certain effort, RPE 8 to 10, threshold, zone 4, heart rate, power, pace, then you should train that way. If you don't, it definitely is much harder to sustain that when you race. And so I always tell my athletes, race it like you train it, meaning look back at all the training you've done. And, we do a lot of race intensity, effort, pace, power, heart rate, depending on the athlete. And so we're able to look at that and say, this is what we recommend that you try to sustain in your race. If all you've been doing is, let's say, 150 watts on the bike and you try to hold 180 for an Ironman, it ain't going to happen. Your muscles are going to fatigue, and it's that muscle fatigue that could cause cramping, as well as you need a certain amount of carbohydrates at a higher intensity. So if you maximize your intensity more than your body is prepared to do, it definitely needs more of the source of fuel from carbohydrates. And if you're not giving it that, that could cause cramping. Another thing, I just read this in a Facebook group about a female who was cramping from swimming. Even with wearing a pull buoy, she was getting, I don't remember if it was a foot cramp or a calf cramp. And based on my experience with teaching adults for over 25 years swimming, even if you're not kicking, if your foot is in a flex position, overly plantar flexed, or in the other, just too tight, too pointed, even if it's in the pull buoy, you could be tense and not know it. That could cause a cramp. So I see a lot of issues with certain kicks from athletes that cause them to cramp in their calf or their toes because they have very inflexible ankles, even though they tell me I've drinking this and they have their Gatorade or whatever sports hydration product on the pool deck that they're sucking down to try to alleviate the cramp or prevent the cramp. It just has to do with a um, efficiency of possibly whatever you're doing in your sport that may cause you to cramp. And so, yeah, there's definitely lots of avenues. Also, there's an article I read. I've lived in Colorado for 10, or I've lived in Georgia for 10 years. So we're probably 12, 15 years ago. It's called In the Nerve. And there's this product called Hot Shot that talks about how cramping could be nerve related. And I was coaching a female athlete in Colorado and I gave her the product and it was instantly her cramp went away. She was a severe cramper, especially in the water. And so she tried this Hot Shot product and she said the cramp went away within like 30 seconds. And so that confirmed for me, that's all like the data I needed to know that this product works for certain people depending on the reason that they're cramping.
Yeah, and I was actually going to mention that. Um, I read there were several articles around that time about it being nerve related, psychologically related, brain synapses, like different. They were saying it's not just electrolytes and it's not just tight muscle and it's not just overworked muscle. It's something going on, like you said, with the nerves and with the brain. And so this product called Hot Shot, if you've ever tried it, if you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, it's in a little like a bottle, like the 5 hour energy bottles or the little pickle juice bottles, and it has some sort of hot pepper. So it's like
Yeah.
super spicy. And then you slam it and somehow the like shock of the spice to your system fixes that nerve connection or disconnection or whatever it was. And I don't know the science. So if you guys are listening and you know the science, like I know I'm not saying it, probably not saying it correctly because I haven't, I read that article 15, 20 years ago as well. But I remember when Hot Shots, I remember Ironman had them at some of their events. And
Uh-huh.
I tried one and it like exploded in my stomach. Like it caused me a lot of stomach issues. And it's really hot. It's like, I don't know, a ghost pepper, whatever it is. It's like super, super spicy. That's why it's called hot shot.
Yeah. I didn't like the flavor personally.
Oh my God, so gross. So yeah, so if you are having this issue, look into all the things. I would, like Wendy said, and how I mentioned at the beginning, I would definitely start with nutrition. The product I use for racing is called Flow, and they actually recommend it's called 60/90, like the whole, like all their electrolyte carb drinks, they're 60/90 because 2 scoops is 60 grams of carbs and 3 scoops is 90 grams of carbs. So they say train with 2 scoops and race with 3 scoops because of the reason exactly what you just said, Wendy. When you race, you're going harder, so your body needs a little bit more.
Yeah, that's an interesting product. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's actually from Colorado. And I started using
Okay.
it. They were when it first came out like 3 years ago, they sponsored the Without Limits, and Without Limits,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, there's a new company right in Denver, or might be Boulder, but right in Colorado, a local company, and it specializes in products that are easy on the GI system, which a lot of people have issues with. And I was like, oh, I'll try it out, and I've used it ever since for the last 3 years.
Yeah, so that just reminded me in 2007, had the opportunity to go to the Gatorade Sports Science Institute in somewhere in Illinois, and I was part of a camp, which I didn't know it at the time. I just knew the scientists that worked there that she invited me, and I ended up being part of a camp, and they were doing sweat rate testing, and it was like a 2 hour indoor bike and a 2 hour treadmill run in 80 degree, 85% humidity, like you were going to experience at the Ironman. They collected your fluids before, the day before, the during, after. And I, number one, was really good on my fluid intake. Number two, I found out I don't have a lot of salt in my sweat. And number three, I was actually over consuming on carbohydrates, which could potentially cause GI distress, which never did for me. So they dialed in my carbohydrate intake and my fluid intake, and they told me you get enough salt that your body needs from Gatorade. And I've always been a fan of Gatorade. Very disappointed that Gatorade doesn't sponsor Ironman, but at the same time, I'm not doing Ironman anymore anyway. So that's an important, again, if you're an athlete, getting your sweat rate tested to get that dialed in. Now, having said that, I normally don't, use a lot of electrolyte product. I never have, except Element was one of the sponsors of the indoor triathlon I recently just did. So I got a lot of his samples from Element, and I love it.
Me
I
too.
love it. I love the flavor, and it's got like 1,000 milligrams in a
So
little
salt.
sample packet of sodium electrolytes. And the day before or the week leading up to my marathon, I knew it was going to be a hotter day than normal. I was really loading up on Element, mainly because it was just really good flavored water. And I'm a fan of it. And I think, again, did I need all that extra sodium the week before? Probably not, but it didn't hurt me either. And so again, it's just worth trying different products, electrolyte only products, electrolyte mixed with carbohydrate products. I love Tailwind. And so Tailwind is usually offered a lot on the trail running courses that I do. So I use that, and I know it works for me, so I don't train with it, but I rely on it on race day.
Yeah, I like Element as well. All right, what's your first question, Wendy?
So mine has to do with bike. Hi, Wendy. Because I started training for triathlon back in November, I've only ridden indoors. How do you ride outdoors while riding with a power meter? Notably, my weekend bike rides with structured workouts and intervals. Logistically, I'm not confident about doing these well outside, lack of data, finding opportunities, terrain, but I don't want to lose my outdoor time. I don't want to lose my outdoor time, both from an enjoyment and bike handling perspective. Thoughts? So I think she meant to say I don't want to lose my indoor fitness. So I've actually had this question a lot. And it's really like when you're indoors riding, a lot of people use an indoor trainer called a Wahoo Kicker, but there's Tax and a lot of other brands out there, and they're usually connected to an app called Zwift or Ruby. I'm not sure what other Trainer Road. And that allows you to ride specific courses, terrain inside, and you're riding with power. Even if you don't have a power meter on your bike, with these apps, you're dialed in on power if you have one of the smart trainers with power. And so you can get really dialed in and ride on erg mode and be real focused. If you have a 10-minute interval between 150 and 160 watts, the trainer's going to set you in the middle at 155. So the trainer's going to set you up so you don't really go above or below. You're really dialed into power. Then you start to go outside, and then there's terrain. You manage uphills, you manage gearing, you have to manage the downhills, the comfort level. And
The
again,
wind.
someone like me, the wind. Yeah, there's a lot of elements that you're battling. There's no way, even on a flat course, that you're going to be like 150 watts for 10 minutes. You're going to go to 157 or 149, and you're going to be within that range. That's why zones come in a range. And so it's really hard. And if you're a beginner and not used to that, it is really hard to manage 3 by 10 minute intervals at 150 watts with 5 minute recovery at 120 watts, because maybe during your recovery phase, you're going uphill and you just can't
Right.
do that. So another reason it's really important to know rate of perceived effort and know what your rate of perceived effort is at a certain power, pace, or heart rate. And so someone like me, and again, I posted this on social media, I'm riding outside right now. I'm not riding with the focus of any
Mm-mm.
specific workout or fitness. I'm just riding to acclimate to my bike and get used to standing on the hills, going uphill, gearing, the right gearing choice, which I didn't have this morning, the right gearing choice going up the first hill. I'm managing my comfort level on descents. I'm just trying to get used to riding my bike again. Again, riding a bike is just like riding a bike. You don't forget, but there are elements that you don't get indoors that you're going to get outdoors. And so I think it really is specific. And we did a podcast on going from indoors to outdoor riding. We did a little podcast just a month ago. But I think it's really important to just say, you're going outside, just ride your bike, get used to the terrain again. And then as you're getting used to the terrain again, you're getting used to what type of terrain do you need to hold a certain specific wattage that your workout's giving you. And you can better manage the more of the workout style. And at the same time, yeah, you want to have fun. So if riding outside, following a specific workout that you or your coach provided for you isn't fun for you, then do your workout inside and just go outdoors to have fun. When I used to train a lot on my bike, I would do the workout indoors, but I wanted some outside time. And my outside time was always just more for getting outside, getting some sunshine, getting used to the wind, and having some fun. It wasn't to follow a specific workout unless I was in a safe environment with no cars and it was mostly flat and I could follow a certain dedicated workout. So really, you're not going to lose fitness going from indoor riding to outdoor riding. There's just different things you're going to work on when you're riding outside that you don't get a chance to work on when you're riding indoors, specifically downhill and wind.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's exactly what I would say is, let's say you do 4 bike workouts a week. Maybe 2 of them are, your specific rides that you need to stay at a certain watts or a certain RP for an extended period of time, and do those indoors. And then especially people who like to ride with friends. You can't take your workout given to you by your coach and be like, I'm going to ride with friends during this workout. Those are 2 separate things. So kind of what's your goal for that specific workout? And when you do go outside and ride with your friends, for me, that's just to get miles in and to get comfortable on your bike, work on the technical aspects, and hang out with your friends. And when you're riding to get some fresh air and sunshine and just enjoy yourself and get used to being in your aero bars, have that be your goal for that ride.
Yeah, I have an athlete. I still coach one athlete from Istanbul, Turkey, and he's going to a training camp, and he wanted me to provide the detailed workouts. And I was explaining to him, I'm like, you're not going to do them because you're going to be with this group camp. But he wanted me to do it anyways, and I did. And at the same time, it's just really hard to follow your training plan, especially if you go to a camp. If you're going to a camp, you want to do what the camp is doing and all your friends are
Yeah.
doing. And you want to know the purpose of it, Like I told my friend Ann this morning, I'm doing your workout. I'm here to see you. I haven't seen you in a couple weeks. You do your workout. Don't worry about me. I'm here just to tag along to get in my 10 miles. And so, um, Another thing you can do to balance it out is go outside during like your warm up. Go indoors for like the main hard set and then go outside for a cool down. So
Yeah.
you get the best of both worlds. You get some outside time, high fun value. I call it high fun value time. And then you get some structured interval fitness building, race specific building structured time indoors.
Yes. Yep. That is great. All right. My next one is just about life in general, but she mentioned a lot of things about finances. But this person, she grew up, her mom died early, like when she was younger. She didn't have a good relationship with her dad. And she just always feels stuck on where, hold on, my dog's all tangled up. Joey, move your legs. You gotta move your legs. Um, she said, where do I go for, hold on, let me start over. All right. Where do I go for general life slash financial help? How do I learn about things like IRAs, budgeting, savings, investing, etc., when I don't have parents to teach me? And we kind of chatted about this a little bit because these things are also not, I mean, it's better now because now there are some programs in school, but like when we were kids, we never learned about any of this. We talked about that on our finance. We did a whole podcast episode on finances, and we did you most people don't learn this stuff at school. So and she said also not just finance, but general life skills that you usually learn from your parents. And these days it's kind of a double-edged sword because we have access to unlimited amounts of information online through AI, through search engines, through chat rooms, unlimited access. But the other end of that is not all advice is good advice, and not all ways of searching for stuff is going to come up with what's best for you. Like if you have a sore throat and you search, what do I do about my sore throat? The next thing you read is you probably have throat cancer.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
So it's so true. Um, so what I would say, what I talked to her about, and if anyone's listening, is and Wendy's actually mentioned this several times on the podcast about different areas in life, like nutrition and exercise and stuff like that, is seek out and find mentors that you trust, whether it's you listen to them for a while and you really understand why they're giving the advice they're giving, somebody that you have a lot of the same values or beliefs with, and what they're saying makes sense to you, because there are so many experts out there, but there are also so many quote experts out there, so that aren't necessarily as expert as they pretend to be. So I think just finding a mentor, finding somebody that you trust, that it makes sense for you, because everybody is different. And then to learn from that person. So I've talked about over the last 3 months that I've been listening to the Dave Ramsey radio show every single day. So 2 hours a day since January 1st. And it's not the first time I've done this. My ex-husband and I, we used to listen to Dave Ramsey all the time 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So he's been on the air for over 30 years giving the same advice. It's very practical. It makes sense to me. I trust it. So now when I'm working on my financial future, that's where I go for advice. And he has a whole AI program now with all his radio shows, all the listener calls, all the books that they've written, all the articles they've written. So it would give advice not from a huge worldwide search like Google or ChatGPT, but just what their beliefs are. So for me, for finances, I trust that. And so that's where I'm going. Would I go to him for nutrition advice? No. Would I go to him for training advice? No. But he is for me, he makes sense financially, so that's where I would go for my financial advice.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd add to that is you found your source. There's no need to be asking all these questions in different Facebook groups or social media,
Under
Google, ChatGPT. You already have that person, and there's no need to keep getting advice from others because then it gets really confusing and very conflicting. It could be.
it,
Or,
no,
they're all saying the same thing in a different way, and it sounds confusing and conflicting.
right. But it's in any area of our life, any of the things Wendy and I talk about, training, nutrition, exercise, supplements, finances, relationships, every expert has different advice. Like not every like Dave Ramsey is very debt averse. Like their whole thing is like get yourself out of debt no matter what it takes. There's other financial experts who are doing great who don't have that belief. And they're doing fine too, and they might be giving great advice that they believe in, and they have followers that are heeding that advice and doing great. So everyone, like Wendy said, you find the person that you trust, but then you have to trust them completely. Because if I listen to five different financial advice people, I'm going to get five different things, and then I'm going to be so confused and do nothing.
Right.
So yeah, I think that was a great ad, Wendy. All right, what's your next question?
My question is, it's a question more of a it's a coaching comment though too. It kind of has to do with what you were just saying about find the source and trust it. I saw this in a Facebook group, and again, I always go off on Facebook groups because people ask so many different questions, and then there's 100 different answers, and I'm just like, wow. Back when I started the sport, I didn't have anywhere to go to ask questions. I just had to figure it out, and I turned out okay. So, um, this is a comment question. I'm currently training for my first Ironman, and I'm using a training plan from, and then he gives the name of the company. So far, I'm following it consistently, but since it's my first Ironman, I'd love to have a bit more confidence in this approach. I'm wondering if anyone has experience with this training plan. Have you used it, and did it work for you? Any feedback is welcome. So the fact that they're saying I would love a little bit of more confidence in the approach, I wanted to highlight to say this is the perfect, you know, example of this person probably would benefit from hiring a multi-sport coach specific to, what they want to train for or what kind of confidence they're looking for that you don't always find in a training plan. And so when you have a real human live coach to answer all your questions when you're wondering why, you ask your coach. You don't ask a bunch of strangers in a Facebook group. You ask the coach. The coach is giving you a program, and they should be able to explain the purpose and the why behind the workouts that they're giving you. And you'll never have it. Again, you shouldn't, if you have a qualified coach, you should never have any doubts. And if you do, you just ask the coach, and they should be able to explain it to you. If that coach doesn't do that for you, then maybe it's time to find a new coach. And again, this can apply to a finance coach, a health coach, a personal trainer, fitness coach, nutrition coach, relationship coach, finding that person that you trust, that you
Yeah,
feel comfortable and confident that you can ask anything you want, because coaching's all about relationship building. It's all about communication. So as a coach, you and I are both coaches, we generally know what the athlete doesn't know. So it's up to us to say, okay, this person has zero experience. What do we need to share from an educational perspective? Because we know they don't know this, and we know that they don't know that what they don't know, so they don't know that they should ask this question. And so, constantly educating that athlete and asking them questions to, again, to find out what they do and do not know, because you don't want to be feeding them information that they already have. They already have a good amount of information, and they could care less about what you're telling them because they already know the answer. So I just wanted to highlight this coaching question, because I just think any area of your life pertaining to wellness, it's good to invest in yourself and invest in finding that accountability partner coach to join you along your journey and to be there for you, to provide and guide you and provide that accountability and education that you need, that you're feeling. If you're not feeling confident about something, you have that person that should hopefully create that confidence that you could have a rapport about anything and everything.
Yeah. And this morning at Masters, I do a lot of drills. The other Masters coach, I've never seen his workouts, but the Masters people tell me like, you're like the drill coach and he's like the yardage coach. Like he had you get a lot of meters in, but I make them do the drills. And we had 8 drills today. I wrote them all up, and the ones that were newer to people, they're like, "What's that?" And I told them the drill, and half of the people just do it. But there's a couple people and one guy in particular this morning, and each drill, he asked me, "What's the purpose of this drill?" So he didn't just go do the drills and then, like you said, like go on Facebook and be like, "Oh, my coach is having me do all these drills. Are they really worth it?" He asked me, "What's this drill for? What's this drill for?" And I told him so that when he did the drills, he had confidence that these drills are for a purpose, that he's going to become a better swimmer, and he understands why he's doing it because he was able to ask me, the person who prescribed them, rather than, okay, that he just goes and does all these drills. And then later on, he's like, "I don't even know what I'm doing. Why am I doing these drills? Is this even going to help my swim? What's going on?" So he was able to ask me and get a clear answer so that now he does have the confidence to do those drills and he knows they're going to help his swim.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. All right. So my last one is also it's not a question that pertains to 99.99% of the people in the world. But it's funny because this class that I teach at the gym yesterday, I was like, my friend and I who do our podcast, we're doing an Ask Us Anything. So if you guys have any questions at all about any sort of, exercise, nutrition, wellness, supplements, life, like anything, you know, let me know. And this lady came up to me after and she said, "How do you talk so much while you're exercising?" Because I'm teaching the class and I'm explaining everything while I'm teaching. And we're doing some harder effort things. And then I'm explaining it. And she's like, "How do you talk while you're exercising?" And I kind of laughed, like, this isn't a question I'm going to ask on the podcast because who does it really pertain to? People who talk while they exercise. However, the reason I wanted to bring it up is because Wendy and I just did a podcast, like, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks ago about putting in the hours and the practice and the training to become an expert at something. And one thing I've done is I've been teaching fitness classes since 1990. So if those of you guys are doing math, that is 36 years. So for 36 years, I've been talking and exercising at the same time. So my answer to how do you talk while you're exercising is I've been doing it for 36 years. Wendy talked about that last week with her swimming. She's been swimming for almost 50 years. Wendy, how are you such a good swimmer? Because I've been swimming for 50 years. So if you guys are looking at something that you're just starting or you've been into for 6 months or a year and you're wondering, gosh, how do these people do it? I'm not even close. I'm so far behind, like we talked about last week. It's that you haven't been doing it for 20 years. You haven't been doing it for 30 years. You haven't been doing it for almost your entire life. And once you have something that you have been doing for that long, you're going to be really good at it.
Uh-huh.
So I just wanted to bring it
Exactly.
up because it reiterates a lot of things we talk about in that, to be good at something, you need to do that something.
Right. And just you don't even know you're good at something until someone points it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I never thought that was, I mean, I know I can teach, and like even this cycling class when we're in like a zone 5 effort and I'm cueing the zone 5 effort, like I can still talk and do that because I've been doing it so long, but I never thought like, oh wow, somebody's looking at it going like, wow, she's really good at talking and exercising at the same time.
Hmm.
So I just thought it was a good thing to remind everyone that practice, practice, practice. All right, what's your last question?
So this wasn't a question. This is just something that an athlete I coach wanted me to bring up on the podcast. And I was going to wait till maybe next week until we had more information about it. But recently, a 35-year-old female from Brazil died in the Ironman swim at Ironman Texas. And for me, based on all deaths that I've ever heard about in an Ironman, this one I'm seeing most comments and discussions about again in social media, and it's probably because social media is a lot more prevalent now. This is not the first death, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about it and maybe continue the conversation once we get more information, because it prompted me to do my research, get more information on what caused the death, because it shook me up a lot as well, more than any other death that I've seen. Maybe because it's North America, it's Texas. I've
And
done
that,
Ironman Texas. It's a 35-year-old female. But my first initial reaction when I read the story was, I wonder if it could have been prevented if she was wearing a wetsuit. And that was just my first initial thought. I don't know anything about why it happened. I don't know the cause of death. I don't know when in the race she was in. But like all the social media are all about, all like the big television, social medias are all like, Ironman's not safe. How do we make Ironman be more safe sport? There's other comments about, oh, all age groupers should be wearing safety buoys, yada, yada, yada. And I was getting really frustrated that I had to like turn all that stuff off and do my own research, because I felt like it started becoming really political, that this woman died. And it's like, okay, first think about, like, someone died and she has friends and family, and the support crew and the people first on the scene, how impacted are they based on this death? Let's not get political here. Let's not debate whether triathletes should be wearing safety buoys or not. Let's not have any debate. Let's just have some discussions, because these people were like getting, someone posted, should all age groupers be wearing a safety buoy, and there were some evil comments based on that post. And again, that's when I said it started becoming very political. So, I've read some stories, I've read some accountabilities, I read some stories from the people that were there to rescue her. I've also read some stories from other athletes who are posting their near-death experiences in the Ironman swim while wearing a wetsuit, while not being sick, having no heart conditions, having no anxiety, no fear, no panic, but they can't breathe. For them, it was an allergy. They had this unexplained allergy that they didn't know they had, and it was causing them to have breathing issues. If you're having breathing issues, you could be choking, you could be coughing, you can inhale a lot of water. That's going to cause some drowning. So again, drownings can happen to perfectly healthy people. They can happen to men and women. They can happen to older
great.
adults. Yeah. So I think it just highlights how this 35-year-old, apparently healthy female drowned. We don't know why yet. It's just bringing an awareness that everyone needs to take their own precautions. I don't believe Ironman is an unsafe event, at all. I think the whole non-wetsuit, um, of the swim, you still can wear a wetsuit if you choose to. So I think everyone still had a choice to wear a wetsuit. So if you're ever uncertain of your capability without a wetsuit, you will always have the option to wear that wetsuit. You always have the option not to participate as well. So again, look at your own fears, anxieties, confidence, preparation, and decide for yourself if you want to participate in this sport. Like every sport has health risks. Again, I don't want to take away from her death, because it is definitely a tragedy, and it's opened up a lot of people's minds and asking a lot of questions. But I think it's too soon to be pointing fingers at the what ifs, the what ifs, the what ifs. So I just wanted to express my point of view on the whole situation.
Yeah, and I don't know if USAT reacted because of that, but they just USAT, and I don't know if Ironman will adopt this, but USAT, which is the governing body for triathlon in the United States, they just posted something that at USAT events, even if the swim is not wetsuit legal, you're allowed to wear the short buoy shorts. like the short, like not the long ones, like mine are like capris, but anything
Uh-huh.
you can wear the knee, um, buoyancy shorts. And they
That and that'll
just,
be legal.
yes. And so they release that. The only time it won't be, you can't, if it's like a national championship or a world championship event, you can't. But any
Right,
other,
and I believe that is directly related to this incident because people
yeah.
are saying, to keep to make it more safe, everyone should be allowed the buoyancy short if it's too warm. So I bet you that was related to this incident. And I also want to say, I'm speaking as a coach and athlete and as a race director. I used to direct a local race. We had a death. It was a heart condition. So again, could a buoyancy short, could have wetsuit saved this female? Not if her heart just stopped. Did she take medication? There's hearsay that she was sick before the race. Maybe she was on some sort of a medication that impacted her heart or impacted some asthma or impacted an allergy. There's just so much speculation. I think it's just so many people right now are playing the blame game on certain things, and I just don't like that because it seems like it's become a political thing right now what I've read.
Well,
I
and
just think
also,
everyone needs to play it safe.
right, and like what you said just 2 minutes ago, because when you had messaged me and you're like, "Oh, we should chat about this a little bit," my first thought was, you had a death at your race. I remember that. I remember that vividly.
Hmm.
You guys, I mean, that wasn't your fault. Like you said, it was a heart condition. Nothing you could have done as a race director could have prevented that. But I know, I remember how you guys felt about that. I remember how that made you feel. Remember how torn up you guys were, and you feel responsible because you put on the race and somebody lost their life, but it's not because you put on the race, and it's not because of lack of anything you did or didn't do.
Right. USAT provides the guidelines, a certain number of rescues, certain number of lifeguards, certain number of kayaks per person. And again, Ironman's been around for years, USAT has been around for years. You get your event sanctioned, you have to follow certain guidelines. During our race, we did everything right. And again, if you can't prevent someone from having a heart condition. Unfortunately, when you have it in the water, it's a little more difficult to do rescue breath and chest compressions. So and I went into hiding. I
I
just felt like I went into hiding for a while. And my first race that I did was probably, 4 to 6 weeks later. And I remember swimming in Lake Loveland and I'm like looking around like, no, what if I just floated right now? What if I just pretended I was just floating on the surface? Would anyone see me? So yeah, I had a lot more anxiety and panic and just memories and visuals that I'm sure these first responders are never going to forget what they saw, and it's just such a tragedy for everyone involved.
Yeah, I read the account of the man who kept trying to dive down to find her, and at
Mhm.
one point he like touched her body, but he
Uh-huh.
but then up for air, and when he went back down, he couldn't find her. And I just can't
Mhm.
imagine, like you said, like, he spent, I don't remember. I read the article. I mean, he wrote a letter to her family
Y-
saying, I promise I did everything I could. And he
Yeah.
explained what he went through, and it wasn't enough, but he did all he could do, and that's all he could do.
Yeah, yeah, it is just it's hard. It's hard on everyone. It shook me up more than I've been shaken up by deaths. And there have been deaths with athletes wearing wetsuits.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, my first thought, could have a wetsuit helped in any way? Who knows, like, yeah, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but there's no need to like argue and blame and just it's just, an eye opener for everyone involved. And let's take our own precautions and do what we need to do. And if we need to there's these safety buoys that I heard about that inflate only when you go under or something like that. I mean, just do what you need to do to be safe. There's no race worth risking your life.
Right. And I remember, so my second Ironman, I didn't end up doing it, but I signed up for it, trained for it, started the race. It was in Utah. It was the first year that they did Ironman Utah in Lake Utah, Utah Lake, whatever it
Uh-huh.
was called. And we woke up like calm 90 degrees all the days leading up to the race. Race morning, it was like 50 degrees, obnoxious winds. And apparently that lake is really shallow. So it was swelling up 30-foot swells. And I remember our friend Eddie, he wasn't a great swimmer. And
He
that
didn't
was
do it.
no, he jumped in the water and then jumped right back out. So I thought of him when you said take your own precaution. He looked at the water and not being a strong, confident swimmer, he chose not to start.
I
And
remember that was 2011, maybe.
no, it was 2002. It was
Oh, so it's
2002.
a long time ago.
Yeah, it was 2002. And I went out and swam. I was confident. I felt fine. We all had wetsuits. And um the buoys, it was so windy, the anchors couldn't stay and the buoys kept blowing out. So everyone was
Hmm.
just swimming toward these buoys that were blowing further away. So so about 50 minutes in, we everyone was still swimming out. Nobody was even swimming back in yet. 50 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So they canceled the swim, they called it, they sent rescue boats out, brought everyone back. Everyone scanned their chip and they were missing somebody. And we all sat in transition, freezing because we were all wet. I was like, they gave us access to our special needs bag. So I was like eating all my food, waiting to decide what they were going to do. Um, they decided that, so they found somebody's body. Somebody had died. It was a heart attack. We all were wearing wetsuits. And this
Hmm.
man, it was a man, he still died. And they changed it to a half duathlon. So they just the whole swim was discarded. No matter what people swam, we were starting from, they did a time trial start, did a half
Uh-huh.
50-mile bike and a 13.1-mile run. And at that
Wow.
point, I chose not to do it. And so my ex-husband and I, he was there with me. I said, would you be disappointed if we just went home? And he said, nope, this is your choice, your race. And so we just left. But that was my first experience with, I mean, I was sobbing the whole way home, knowing that somebody had died in the race. It was heart-wrenching. And
Yeah.
I know that the statistics now, that was in 2002, so 24 years ago, but I feel like at least 5 to 10 people a year in triathlon have died. I we should maybe look up the statistics. I don't want to like, but it's not something that hasn't happened before.
Well, that seems high to me. And at the same time, there's hundreds of thousands of more athletes participating now than there was back then.
That's
And it's
true.
worldwide. Like I don't hear the stats of every race, but I'm sure a quick, Chat GPT Google search, we could find out how many people since 19 whatever,
Eight,
since the sport started, or since Ironman started, because it happens more frequently, more prevalent in 70.3, more frequent in 140.6. But to see, there's probably someone who has done a chart, if not then, probably like as of the last few days, who has done the analysis and has a chart maybe that shows the upward of deaths that mostly happen in the swim.
yeah.
And I
Well,
still think it's again, proportionally, it's like 0.01%.
right. Well, and do you remember, because somebody in at the Loveland Lake to Lake triathlon died on the bike. He got hit by a car didn't stop. He didn't, it was like the car was supposed to be stopping, and a local got hit by a car and died. And so, when
Yeah.
I did one of the first dance skin races in the early 2000s, a lady was crossing in front of the bikes, a spectator, just crossing in front, didn't realize the bikes are coming so fast. A woman on a bike hit the lady, she got a head injury, ended up dying. So that's why
The walker or the athlete?
the pedestrian, the spectator.
Oh, wow.
So I do think that like it I mean those are just in Colorado. Like you're one race director that did a race for a handful of years and you had a death. So I do think
Hmm.
I 10 people a year, I don't think is, like if anything, I feel like that's underrated.
That's probably underwritten. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it in those terms.
Yeah, exactly. So, and somebody in Boulder, at the Boulder 70.3 a couple years ago got hit by a car and
I
died.
remember at the Boulder Peak Triathlon when Barry Siff was race director, two people, one person in the swim, and then one person got pinned under a car on the descent on the Boulder Peak Triathlon, that fast descent. Someone was pinned under a car and someone passed away in the swim. The same race, same day.
Gosh, oh, it's awful. Woo. All right. Let's shift gears. What are you most excited for this week? I'm like, ooh, big cleansing breath. That's a
What am I most excited about this week? It's going to rain. We haven't had rain in a long time. I just heard this morning, there's parts of Georgia that are on fire right now. And I follow WeatherBug and I always get updates about hazardous fire conditions, fire danger, yada. And I'm like, what about Colorado? I never got these alerts in Colorado. Well, even though it's super dry in Colorado, we just have more trees to burn down. So
yeah,
I think the fire danger alerts are really high when it's been so dry, no moisture, and it's windy. The fire danger is very high here because we just have a lot of trees
right.
that are at risk to getting on fire and burning down. And so you just didn't have that in Colorado. That's why, and it just dawned on me today. That's probably the difference between the fire danger in a dry climate like Colorado compared to the fire danger in a more moist climate, but we haven't had rain. And so
Right.
it's going to rain and over the weekend. And my husband and I are going to go one day this weekend. We're going to go to Amicalola Falls. He wants to go, so I'm
Oh,
excited. That's a huge excitement wellness win too. That my husband's like, "What are you doing this weekend?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to do some of my runs, yada yada yada." He's like, "Well, do you want to go to Amicalola Falls and do stairs?" And I'm like, "Absolutely."
yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that.
So
I'm
yes, that's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm actually most excited to just work on organizing my new apartment because I
That's
haven't.
fun. I would be
Yeah.
too.
And since I moved in, I just my Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I moved in Saturday. I finished moving, cleaned the other apartment Sunday. Then my Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are all day. I'm busy, like every minute of the day. And so Thursdays are my first day to breathe. That's today. I worked this morning. I went for a swim, felt amazing. We're doing the podcast. I actually have I'm going to jujitsu right now, and then I have one client. And then my daughter has her sock hop this evening, but in between I have 2 hours. And I didn't schedule. I had people that are like, "Oh, can you fit me in for training? Can you fit me in for a private lesson?" I'm like, "Nope." I just want to spend a couple hours unpacking, getting things organized, tossing some things, and redecorating.
Well, I think when you move, even though you're kind of cluttered and disorganized at first, it's a perfect opportunity to declutter, get organized, and get rid of more shit.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm
And so, find all your socks, pair all your socks, all your laundry should be done. Hopefully, all your laundry was done before the move. If not, get it all
I
done now. Put everything in the right space.
yes. Yeah, I'm excited because I just this last couple weeks I've been all over the place and people are like, "How's it going?" I'm like, all I just keep telling myself 1 month from today, this isn't going to be like it's all going to be done and I'm not going to be so overwhelmed and anxious and going crazy. At this moment, I'm still going crazy, but I know in 1 month it's not even going to be a thing. It's going to be like, oh
Right.
yeah, I was all stressed out and crazy. Oh, I got internet. I mean, I finally hooked up my internet 2 days ago. I haven't had it for 2 weeks. That is a wellness win right there. It's
Oh,
amazing how,
absolutely. I love it.
remember, we couldn't do our podcast.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I am so glad that we got on today. If you guys have other questions that you want Wendy and I to go over, please let us know. I feel like we get so many questions all the time. We could seriously do a Ask Us Anything every other podcast. So if you guys like this format, It's not, it's a little all over the place, but I know that's a good breath of fresh air for if it's just all about training and you don't do triathlon or you're not a runner and you're like, this training things, you guys are so boring. So let us know what you guys want more of, and we will give you more of that. Anything else, Wendy?
Nope.
All right. Thanks for being here, you guys. See you next time.
Make it a great day.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Wellness Made Easy with Wendy and Kirsten.
If you want to learn more about us or anything we talked about today, check out the links in our show notes.
We would love to know what you think of our podcast and what you want more of. So drop us a comment, send us a message, and help us out by leaving us a rating and a review.
And don't forget to let us know your wellness win for this week.
Thanks for listening.
Make it a great day.